COVID-19 vaccine trial in South Africa. It's about to get underway. Professor Shabir Mahdi is the principal investigator in the trial. He's Professor of Vaccinology at Wits University and Director of the South African Medical Research Council. He joins us now. Professor Mahdi, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure you have a million things to do at this moment. What exactly are you injecting into volunteers? What material is this?
So, good evening, Stephen. So, the vaccine that we're going to be evaluating in South Africa is a vaccine that was developed at the University of Oxford. And in fact, it's already currently under evaluation in the United Kingdom, where they've enrolled more than 7,000 of 10,000 potential participants. What this vaccine is that it takes sort of a virus which doesn't cause disease illness in humans, and inserted into that virus is a genetic composition of the SARS coronavirus, which basically codes for what we call a spike protein, which is a very important protein that allows for the SARS coronavirus to actually attach to human cells. The vector is then used to basically present the spike protein to humans, and our body is expected to mount an immune response and produce antibodies. And those antibodies then will prevent one from becoming ill with COVID-19 if they are exposed to the virus. So it is what we call a non-replicating vector vaccine, which is targeted specifically to SARS coronavirus 2.
How do you know if it's actually been successful? I presume that before you start a trial like this, you actually have a formula that can tell you as you go if it's being successful.
Exactly. So what's already happened with this vaccine before it went into human studies is that there was a fair amount of work that was done in animal models, including in non-human primates. Amongst the non-human primates, what happened is that there are groups of non-human primates either that received the vaccine or didn't receive the vaccine. And then they challenged these non-human primates, which are macaque monkeys, with the virus itself. And they see whether vaccination actually protected those monkeys that received the vaccine against developing severe disease. In those animal model studies, the evidence that came out is that this vaccine does actually protect these macaque monkeys from developing COVID-19 after they've been vaccinated. So that was the first level of information. Subsequently, we now need to try to replicate that in humans. But obviously in humans, we're not going to challenge them artificially with an infection, but rather those infections are going to occur because of the natural evolution of the epidemic in South Africa. So we'll have two groups of individuals, about 1,000 individuals that will receive the vaccine and 1,000 individuals that will receive what we call a placebo, which shouldn't have any impact in terms of susceptibility to developing COVID illness. And then at the end, we'll be able to compare the two groups in terms of their difference with the attack rate with COVID-19 to be able to establish whether or not this vaccine actually protects against COVID-19.
Presumably this takes quite a long time. You need to wait for people to come into contact with the virus. You can't make that happen artificially because it's human beings we're talking about here. So do you give it 6 months? Do you give it a year?
So unfortunately in South Africa, where we are with the outbreak is that we're still very much on an upward trajectory, and we expect a huge number of South Africans, independent of whether they're participating in the study or not, that will become infected over the course of the next 3 to 4 months. The vaccine will be able to get an answer as to whether it works or not once we identify up to 42 cases of COVID-19 amongst these 2,000 participants. Whether that occurs over a 3 to 4 months period or whether it occurs over a 9-month period really depends on how this virus continues circulating in South Africa. Right now, our projection is that we very likely will get an answer or accrue sufficient number of cases by the end of this year. So we might well have some idea as to whether this vaccine works or not during the course of 2020.